I'm Eitan Weinstein.
And I'm Naor Menninger. And you're listening to Two Nice Jewish Boys.
This podcast is made in collaboration with the Jewish Journal. September 3rd, 2011. Close to 500,000 people hit the streets of Israel, 300,000 of them in Tel Aviv, wielding their megaphones and posters, shouting at the top of their lungs, Ha'am doresh tzedek chevrati. The nation demands social justice. This was the climax of the 2011 social justice protests, which took place in Israel. What started as a small protest against the rise in housing prices quickly transformed into a national phenomenon that took the country by a storm and encompassed a wide range of issues from healthcare and taxation to schooling and public transportation. At the head of the movement, Daphni Leef. Daphni graduated Tel Aviv University, like one of these two nice Jewish boys, and became a film editor following her studies. But that's not where this story begins. It begins the day she received a letter ordering her to evict her apartment of 3 years. We are very excited to be joined by Daphni Leef to talk about her life, about the protests, and about social justice. How are
Corrections.
you? Corrections? She was
There are
making the correction
corrections.
faces. What are the corrections?
And if we have time, the Bible, it just says, we don't have that much time to speak
don't.
about all of that. But we'll do the best we can.
But quick corrections. What were the
I didn't get a
points?
letter from my landlord. I got a phone
okay.
call.
Okay.
Okay. Less
It wasn't
cinematic.
it wasn't the nation demands social justice. Was the people demand?
The people. Okay. Ha'am.
Ha'am is the people.
Okay.
In that way.
Yeah.
And it started from rent.
Yeah. Okay.
Not from housing in general, but it started from rent.
Well, I think
And
housing...
it grew into housing,
Okay.
and from housing it grew to social justice.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were 10% of the population on the street, and I'm pretty sure that there were more than 300,000 people in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay. I got my numbers from Wikipedia, so it's not the most reliable.
No.
But
Unfortunately.
yeah.
So, you just released a few months ago or a year ago the new movie?
A year ago.
A year ago.
Yeah.
And the movie depicts the story, your story, right? So what is the movie about? What is the story from your perspective?
Well, I didn't, I studied film. I have a degree in film, but during the movement, I wasn't thinking about making a film. And, I had no documentation. A lot of the footage you see in the documentary,
Which is called?
Before My Feet Touch the Ground, was actually shot by a guy called Jonathan Pichotke, who worked for one of the news channels. And it's a funny fact that a few days after I opened the event, he wrote to me on Facebook a message saying, I want to do a story about you. And I was like behind the scenes sort of person. So I wasn't really eager, but I really wanted it to succeed. And I was already giving my word that I'm doing it. So I decided, okay. But little did I know that his intention was to make a piece of how I'm going to fail.
That was his intention.
That was his intention. He was sure there was actually a vibe going on and like a conversation in, the cafes on Fridays in the city or whatnot, that people go out on the streets everywhere around the world. Even the Egyptians are going out, and we are the only suckers who are not. So, he was very pessimistic about the success of it, and he got screwed over because he found himself running after me and making the long pieces for Channel 10 News.
Yeah. You kind of got that sense, I guess, like from behind the camera, he makes some comments sometimes where you're like, wait, this guy's actually kind of critical of this whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so it wasn't my documentation. And I remember even during that summer that I used to tell him, like, listen, you're getting the most access, but I'm not going to get you into the room to see us fight, because a lot of times fighting is just a part of stress and whatever, because you're from the news, so you're going to get it out of context. So I suggest you just quit your job and make a documentary, because nobody has that much access, But he didn't, and I thank him to this day. So
without it, you wouldn't have a film.
Yeah, basically. And what happened is that, I don't know if it ever happened to you, that you decided to do something and in less than 2 weeks, you exploded media-wise, and all of the structures in the country would
One
just
time-
clash in you in like 200 miles, per hour.
Yeah. One time an episode of ours got like 12 likes. It was pretty exciting.
But it's very stressful, and also, I actually pitched a tent and moved to the street, so I didn't really have like even an apartment to, cuddle in and escape. So I didn't think about making films. But eventually, like a year later, I found myself really in despair of trying to figure out what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And also understanding as a, filmmaker or ex-filmmaker that I have a very, very unique situation where I have the education. I actually have footage that I can get out of the channel because there was a lot of footage, and I actually had footage on my phone that I only started to capture things, on my phone.
I also remember you posted on Facebook asking people who have
Right.
footage to send it to you.
It's very, very strange, by the way, to kind of recollect your memory and your
Rashomon.
point of view from other people's point of views, because I have different recognitions of that time and different memories than what people captured, obviously. So, but I thought like, wow, this is a perspective that you never get to see, because it's very unique that you have so much footage from such a movement. A person who actually was a part of the leadership of it, that has a filmmaker's education, and most importantly, a motive to try and
What's
face.
the motive?
I think the motive, first of all, is the challenge, of doing something as candid as possible and wanting to make a good film. I think that documentaries, and I think that artists in general, when you have principles in what you do, is you don't try to manipulate the footage, and you kind of get into a journey of trying to understand and search for answers. So it sounds really romantic how I'm saying it. It was actually hell making the film, because I was really post-traumatic actually, and watching the footage in the beginning was very, very difficult.
Why were you post-traumatic?
Just because of the amount, post-trauma is defined in many ways, as life-changing event that creates, impulses, and certain reactions, in order to kind of try to skip pain. And although it was an amazing opportunity and I feel privileged, it was also very difficult, because every person who becomes active, who is an activist, goes through this stages of being angry at the public, feeling like it's us and them, being a bit, a bit paranoid. Paranoia has like a stage, identifying with what you do, and also the heartbreak, when there's a gap between your hopes to the translation in, reality. And also it was just really, really extreme, because it wasn't small. It was like, it's like from 0 to 100 in a really, really short period of time. So just the amount of data, the amount of human experience, the amount of criticism, the amount of coverage, the amount of criticism within the coverage, the amount of like trolls that came from government, from big corporations, different agendas, also the wounds that you meet, in the grassroots of people who have been strong their entire lives, and they recognize you from the media and they just fall apart in your arms, so these kind of things also changed something within you. And also it doesn't really help to also get arrested, to get prosecuted by the state,
Your hand broken.
Yeah, so I think that when you run on adrenaline, am I speaking too much?
No.
I'm not sure.
No.
I always have the tendency to like talk too much.
That's why we bring guests.
Okay, so you can relax,
Yeah.
basically. But just the extreme of it, was really, really high, and you need to deal. And actually, it took me a year to kind of stop. The film actually starts with. It's not a nostalgic film. It's about, also the heartbreak of it, and also the aftermath of it. So it's not linear, and it's not about the movement. It's a very personal film in that way.
So it seemed almost masochistic in a way, because it's like to go. I feel like to edit that film, you have to relive the whole thing again
and again and
it's
again
like,
and again.
You know, you obviously were going through a very troublesome time, and to edit it, you have to go through it again. It's
right. Well, it's a good thing that, you know, like you don't push for change a lot, you know, alone. You don't make films alone. So I didn't edit the film. There's an editor.
But you probably sat and watched
of course,
version after
of course.
version.
And also I had, you know, a lot of different changes within the time, and it wasn't that easy getting funds in the beginning. Like the door wasn't that wide open, and, you know, so it was difficult, and making films is difficult, and doing anything as a entrepreneur, you know, is difficult. I feel very privileged, you know, to experience that part as well, because I think dealing with what happened to you and also being accountable for it is, you know, one of the biggest presents I got in order to also do things better.
How do you
and
feel?
To be able to also share experience and, you know, also maybe, you know, the most amazing responses I get to the film is from people who are, you know, in leading positions, or people who are activists, or people who experience that first love, you know, and also first heartbreak in that way. And it's very, very...
So you spoke about like the disparity between the hopes that you had and the outcomes. Can you tell us a bit about what the hopes were in the beginning? Let's actually go
and the timeline
back.
Also,
yeah, let's go back
important.
to the beginning and talk about what exactly happened at the beginning of the film, which is that you were thrown out of your apartment, more or less.
in the beginning of the film, or in the beginning,
of the event?
protest?
Yeah, in the beginning of the protest. Because the
More
film
or
starts.
less.
Yeah, the film starts a little differently, but
yeah.
but at the begin. I mean, it's towards the beginning.
How did
of
it
the film.
start?
Yeah.
The movement.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you want to know? Because 2011 was also like a time of awakening all over the world.
Yeah.
So I can tell you my specific.
I'm saying personally, you get this call from your landlord. You're evicted from your apartment, and then you set up this event. What are your hopes at that moment, and what are your hopes throughout the process?
Okay, so personally, I had a very bad year.
Okay.
Okay, and this is very important to understand. I had a very, very shitty year. You know, I was working as an editor, and like a job that I loved my boss, but I didn't really like the job itself. It was a home improvement reality TV show, ironically enough.
It is like quite ironic.
Yeah. And you know, the pay wasn't that good, and sometimes I wouldn't get paid in time, you know, because of the way that freelancers get paid a lot of the time. And I was working all day alone in front of the computer. I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to that. And also, you know, I was under the impression of, you know, that system that I was educated on, that if I choose early enough the things I want to do, and I push forward for them, and I have good grades, and I take every job I possibly can, and I pay my dues, you know, eventually I will have some sort of success, and I will be able to do what I actually want to do, you know, and I want
the American dream in Israel.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this is actually a part of the problem, you know, the meritocracy that is like, has nothing to do with Israel.
Depends who you ask.
Okay, I'm gonna already give the disclaimer. I probably very much disagree, but I'm gonna step back for a minute. We'll talk about the ideas maybe later.
Okay.
Okay.
But basically, that contract between what I do and the process, you know, how I'm doing it, to how it's gonna affect my life, and you like see the fruits to my work. It was kind of like broken, but mostly I was lonely. I think, because, you know, and I felt always in competition, and always measured myself, you know, to others. And, you know, also, so I would work 10 hours a day, and then after that I would go to a bar and meet people in a time where everybody really wants to kind of run away from themselves, you know, so it's like everything is like really dark. And I remember actually going to a bar and kind of looking around and saying like, okay, I'm out of here. Like, you know, I'm like in the end of the food chain. I'm going to go, because all you do is compare. I think that probably young people nowadays have it even more difficult because of Instagram. You don't even need to get out of the house in order to compare yourself to other people's highlights of what they portray as highlights and their amazing lives.
You're comparing yourself to
Yeah, and
something
also I was
completely fake.
heartbroken, you know. So everything I'm saying has nothing to do with social justice.
Yeah.
It had a lot to do with like, you know, a break of why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I had dreams and hopes of, you know, like a romantic concept of how I'm going to inspire people and make films that will make a difference. And then, you know, you get jobs, and most of the time you just kind of look for the next one. And you lose kind of the purpose of why you want to do it in the first place. And you go to, you know, so this is, and I think this is something that is very relatable for a lot of people, you know, our generation, because we were still like, so never mind.
No,
I was thinking too
I
fast.
agree with that. I agree with the idea that we are constantly comparing ourselves, and we're not focused enough on ourselves as individuals. Meaning, we're not comparing ourselves to ourselves. We're comparing ourselves to others too much.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but what I'm saying is, you know, there were repercussions, you know, emotionally for that. And I remember calling my dad up, saying like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Why am I doing this? Eventually the breaking point mentally, you know, the breaking point was that a guy that was actually younger than me, an amazing guy, one of the most talented, you know, warm, like has his heart on his sleeve. I had a privilege of, you know, like actually, you know, being involved somewhere as an advisor with his thesis film, you know, in high school. Yeah. Because we went to the same high school. And he came and he wanted to kind of like ask me a question about should he go to film, and I'm like sitting in my shitty job, and I look at him and I say like, but who's gonna make films if not you, you know, because like I believe in that guy. Yeah. And actually that guy is not with us anymore. He decided to check out. Oh.
You devote the film to him.
Yeah.
End,
And I remember it just startled me completely because it kind of threw me off. And a lot of times I think that, you know, these kind of situations would kind of send you into like soul searching. Yeah. Because I thought to myself, how does a person who is that candid and open and creative and not cynical feel like he does not have a place here? And I took it, you know, very personally, asking myself, do I understand the game? Because I don't feel like I understand the game anyway. I don't have the elbows for this game. I don't understand the rules of this game. I don't, you know, I don't hold my cards close to my chest. Yeah. I don't understand how to play hard to get, you know, in every aspect of my life. And you know,
and this is
May
before,
2011.
May 20. This is right leading up to it.
So I was like really in a place where I don't understand anymore why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think when you lose purpose or you lose meaning to that race, you kind of get, you know,
thrown off
it, and all of a sudden you get a different perspective. So when I got the phone call from my landlord, who said, "Listen, you have 1 month to find a new place to live because the entire building is actually getting renovated. Yeah. So, you know, you all have to find a solution." So all of a sudden you have 11 different apartments. Some people are like families or old people or whatever. Everybody's trying to like
screw you over.
No, everybody's trying to find a solution, and you have a deadline, and
the
you
other
are very
tenants of the
fragile in that way.
The other tenants, I thought.
So
searching,
everybody started looking for apartments,
right.
And I started searching, and I was in the same apartment for 2.5, 3 years. And it wasn't like
This was in Tel Aviv?
That was in central Tel Aviv. I was living with a roommate. Yeah. And I started searching, and the prices just spiked. So I, you know, and also
today it would have been a bargain. The prices of 7 years ago.
So the thing is, it also gets you a bit jet lagged because, you know, if you work all day and all of a sudden you need to apartment hunt, right? So all of a sudden, this is the time you need to go and see the apartment. A lot of times you would go and you want to understand that people lied to you and the apartment looks completely different than what they said. They create pressure, but by saying everybody wants to see this apartment come in the same time. Yeah. You know, the price.
He had the story when actually with the
who was it? Which one?
With the guy when you just left the place and it was someone else just.
I saw an apartment on Shenkin. Yeah. And we left the place and we told him we were talking to him downstairs, and as we're talking to him, some guy approaches And he's like, and we understand quickly. We had seen this guy also at 2 previous apartments that we had checked out. He had always he'd been at the same apartments. And then we understood that he was there to see it. So we told him, okay, we'll speak to you soon. And we walked to the bus stop at the end of the street, and we're like debating it, thinking about it, calling people, consulting. And then 10 minutes.
He already
we
closed.
decided, and he closed.
Yeah.
So that's
That
what
was
we're talking about
unbelievable.
for the people who don't understand what the
Yeah.
market looks like
In
back
Tel Aviv.
then and today
Yeah.
also.
So basically, but
So
then you
let's-
go
let's
and you
go a
watch the
little
apartment.
forward.
But
How-
this is the most important thing, you wanted to see how the reason that I'm actually emphasizing it is
Yeah.
that there was something I didn't know where I was heading. The decision, like I saw this one apartment just broke me, but I was broken as
From all directions.
It was the catalyst.
it was exactly, but it was a process, and during
Yeah.
that process you also have the atmosphere of people going out all over the world, and it looks different everywhere, because in Spain it was unemployment as well of young adults, so it also started differently in that way.
And there was the whole Arab Spring also.
Right.
So, it was,
so
yeah, it was
there's always
this atmosphere of people standing up for themselves.
exactly, or just wanting something different.
Yeah.
So the reason was like, I need change in my life, and
Yeah.
also like I'm running out of time, and I'm not gonna be able to, and because the prices went up, I kind of started crunching the numbers and understanding that if I don't get paid on time for 1 month, I'm on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was my solution. I just called up a friend who also was seeking for an apartment, and I just called him up and said, like, listen, I can't do this anymore. I don't see my apartment anyway because I'm at work all day. I want to save up the money,
Yeah.
so fuck it. Let's just open, instead of the door to our apartment, let's open a tent in the end of the day. It doesn't really matter.
How
Yeah.
did the idea come up to you though?
I don't know.
Just popped.
Popped. Just like that. Yeah.
In Rothschild, you knew it's going to be in
I wanted
Rothschild.
Habima Square. Habima Square in Tel Aviv is a symbol for, this is the National Theater, so it's supposed to be a symbol of success. But young actors who get to go and work there are actually paid minimum wage, and they also need to sign contracts that are like unbelievable. And they just finished renovating during that time the building in like 120 million shekels.
Mm-hmm.
So just the absurdity of, my generation, and it did not look like a part of the city during that time. I wasn't
Yeah.
used to it as well.
So you opened the Facebook group, the
Yeah.
Facebook event.
Yeah.
And there is a discussion going on around it after a few days. Like
I was a
people
pain
talk
in the
about it.
ass. Yeah, people started joining, but I was busy being a pain in the ass,
Telling everybody you gotta come.
making phone calls.
The media was interested.
The
There
media
was a build up.
when Jonathan actually approached. There were like 80 people in the event. It was very,
Right.
very small because he wanted to show I'm not going to succeed. But I saw it as a vote of confidence. So it made me feel like, okay, I'll give you the fucking interview, okay? But in the same time, I'm going to call up a friend and make sure that it happens in Jerusalem as well. So I called up a friend of a friend that I wasn't really in touch with. And I'm like, hi, it's Daphne. I'm Danny's friend. You should do the same thing. And I was like ranting. Like, you have to do this as well.
Yeah.
And he was also out of a relationship. There was also like a
who
discount
to call.
for students.
Yeah.
I didn't know all of this, and he was
okay.
like, yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I'll call you later. And, people continued joining during that day, but he didn't call me back.
Was there a day when the Facebook...
But just to
Yeah.
make you understand how much of a nagger I am, I remembered he was going to a party in Tel Aviv. I
yeah.
actually went to that party.
To get a hold of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so this is the story because the logo was like a tent.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the idea to change the name of the event from like something really long that I'm not going to even... emergency, take a stand and take a tent, something like something very not communicative in that way, and it became Bet Ze Ohel, which means a tent is a house or whatever, is during that party because I actually came there. He was in the middle of a dance, and I was like, why didn't you call me back? So I was kind of stalking the guy. He's actually a good friend of mine and also my roommate.
Yeah. Now?
Now.
Wow.
But he was not in a terms to talk, and he was like, listen, I'm too big to talk to you right now, not big, drunk or whatever, or like I'm not in the mood.
Yeah.
And he just pushed over his friend and said, you should talk to him. And Yotam, he was his partner in like a art magazine. You know,
Okay.
it was an initiative they had in
Yeah.
Jerusalem. You know, he's a graphic designer, and he was just out of school, and we had a conversation, and
Boom,
you
the
know,
idea for the logo came up.
exactly.
Wow.
And the next day we changed. So that's how it started. You
Yeah.
know, but I think what happened is that when it exploded
Mm-hmm.
during the first day and first week is that first of all you have so many people that kind of fall in love with the concept of cooperating with one another and being
Yeah.
together. You know, it's like it was really a big thing about the vibe of the beginning that was very young, and it was it was talking about creating an alternative situation where we actually share experience and also share struggle. So, but there was a lot of hope and creativity, and the more it grew, because it started from Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, but it grew to like 90 tent stations around around the country. Yeah.
Yeah.
So every place
90
was
tents-
different.
90 tent cities.
Cities.
Like different.
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Locations.
Different locations.
So one of the critical things people said and still says the protest was ambiguous, and even when you watch your documentary, it still feels ambiguous. If after watching the film, I didn't understand.
No, my film is not. It was not created to give you information about the movement.
Well,
You want
No,
that?
but-
You
but-
should read Asher Schechter's book. It's a very
Okay.
good book, and there is a lot of like academic.
but you're here now.
Yeah.
So in what
We do want to talk a bit about the protest.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
And ask and see kind of the film. I guess it was not. Again, it was supposed. I saw it more of as like a documentation of your emotional journey.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, what do you feel was the aim of the protest at the beginning and throughout? Because I think that's what Noah was saying, is that there was this sense in retrospect, and I guess criticism being aimed at it during the protest, that like it's all over the place.
Okay.
It started with rent and then it branched out into all these things. So what was it for you? And what was your aim? I guess what was your end goal?
My aim changed all the time because I felt responsible for the space itself. So the minute people join, I felt a responsibility to try and make sure that the space can evolve, because the amount of aggression and the amount of tactics that were tried. Yeah. I mean, the amount of manipulation that was trying to break this thing apart was very, very high, and from day one, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
big forces?
Big forces. It started from City Hall. They wanted us to move.
I mean, they gave you guys 20 hours basically to begin with, and then they said, you got to get out of here.
Right. So, it wasn't like people say, come,
Yeah.
protest. There was always somebody on the other side saying, I want this thing to disappear.
So you
So it
felt
started
like,
from rent,
Okay.
because of just the DNA of the beginning. And most
Yeah.
people, young adults,
struggle with that. Yeah.
struggle with that in 2011 for sure. And,
Yeah.
now Tel Aviv has 57% of the population rents apartments in this city. Some of them work in tech, so they don't really care as much for the prices because they have higher salaries. But it started from rent. But because it evolved, and more people joined, it became about housing. Because you have people from different parts of the country. You have people with different, struggles and pains, and they also start talking about it. And then all of a sudden you understand that in order to solve the housing issue in the country, you actually have to solve all issues in the country, because for some people it's minimum wage.
Yeah.
For others, it's mortgages. For others, it's pensions. For others, it's rent. And you have more and more people who are allowing themselves to share.
And who did you feel was going to solve these problems?
Well, there was government during that time, as there is government today.
Okay.
Even
And
the
I
same
think-
prime minister.
Yeah, anyway,
Let's not talk about
I'm
him.
just bored about, I don't
Yeah,
want to talk
okay.
about the prime minister, because I think the system, there's something about the foundation of the game that is, really, really broken.
You thought it back then, and you still
I
believe in
still
it
believe
now.
in that. Yeah,
I
can also
totally agree with you, but I think we think in opposite directions.
whatever.
I'm
I just
wondering-
want to finish my
Yeah, sure.
answer.
Okay.
because you said what it was the aim and why it didn't have a list of demands. And I want to tell you that this was the first time in Israel where people actually showed without shame their paychecks to a camera. In 2010, okay, there was not enough social discussion in this country. We are a country that everybody always talks about security. This is a place where you need to be strong. You know, also you have the doctrine of neoliberalism, where if you succeed, it's because of your actions and your actions alone. And
you don't feel that's true.
And if you are, if you are poor, then it's your fault. And no, I do not think it's true, because I do not think that somebody who is a CEO can do anything without his staff and without his customers. And I don't think that people who are born in a wrong color, wrong place, have a better chance. And I think that a part of how, you get people kind of to believe that everything is okay, it's all about, what you do with it, is that you need to have success stories. So these are like really, really, stubborn people who have, the emotional capacity to kind of struggle and kind of mobilize themselves up the food chain. But most people, okay, are not in that situation. And, in Jaffa, you have a third of the kids that don't know how to read.
Yeah. So
you can say this is all about your own personal choice, but it's not that simple. And I think that also when you are succeeded and if you have people who have a more, supportive family, have more opportunities, you can just see the amount of people, for example, in places like, in the entertainment industry, that just because they are kids of people who are in the industry, already they get more chances.
But I think that you have to provide people with some kind of equality of opportunity, but you can't ensure an equal outcome. You can't tell them that.
Of course not.
So
but that's not what I'm saying.
You want to level the playing field.
I don't know anymore. You're asking me now. We can talk about the ideas now. But if I'm talking about the movement itself, this was a primal scream of an entire country. And even people who did not join because they were afraid that it was too left-winged or whatever, because this was a part of the manipulation, keep you guys divided, two people who never stand in line, divide the people who actually do stand in line together to, to pay their taxes, to go to the post office, or to buy their groceries.
Do you feel that the protest did lose something in the fact that it kind of embraced all these different aims?
I think it was.
You think it was a success?
First of all,
sense?
I think that the thing. Now you're talking to me in 2011. I think we made a lot of mistakes. I think that this was a part of the price that of being green in that way, but also being green was authentic, and it also created a groove to it and an excitement to what can happen, and something not cynical, okay, or too planned, because you can see that there are a lot of protests in the country now, and a lot of them are planned or try to plan, and we work with our brain too much, and I think that movements, come from the gut and, from emotion. People don't do anything in this world, that don't come from their gut in that way. I think that the fact that, people express themselves, the ideas, the basic ideas, the notion that you can talk about these things stayed. This is the most important thing that the movement created, because it's an event. It's not a party, and it's not an NGO. So it doesn't go and occupy other people's interpretations and solutions that came after. It's like a big bang. Okay. And after that, you have a lot of different organizations, groups, interpretations of groups of how do they want to advocate for change. So you have public housing, and then you have, organized work, and then you have all of a sudden some girl that decided to change one law that actually, affected me as a freelancer. So there are like a million things that happen. And
you feel that the movement was kind of a stone being dropped in the pond, and then there was this ripple effect that had still happening. That is still changing.
Absolutely. And also there were things that changed. It's not like there was no change.
But the main things didn't change much, I think.
Yeah, but now if you want, we can talk about why, and the complexity, of the reality.
I just want to say that, like, I really opposed the protests back then.
Why?
Because, well, when this happened, I was 1 year after the military. I finished a year in which me and my girlfriend back then, we lived with my parents. We worked really, really hard. I even worked next to Rothschild. So every morning I would come and pass by. I was going to work and the people there were just hanging out, and it pissed me off a little bit. And we worked in 2 jobs. We saved, like, let's say 70,000 shekels each in 1 year. And not long after, we bought an apartment in Haifa, not in Tel Aviv. But we were 22. We worked hard for 1 year. We didn't go to a trip after the military like most Israelis do, and they pay a lot of money for it. And we bought an apartment quite easily with the mortgage, but it was really doable. So the base that you're talking about, the basics of the protest.
So the base of your
it's very personal.
Exactly.
But
that's what I'm saying. So you had your own experience and you decided to judge everybody else just because it wasn't your experience. And I think
not
this
everybody,
is a part.
but if you say
this
that
is
you
a part,
cannot buy
no,
an apartment.
But nobody was talking in the
period.
beginning about buying an apartment. It was about rent.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this is your story. And
Yes.
great for you that you bought a place, and great for you that you had the ability to do it and to also save up that much money because of it, with your girlfriend. This is a very specific situation.
It is.
Okay? And, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you have abundance. Okay? If you do, I'm happy for you for it.
Okay.
But this is not the situation that is common. Okay? And I think that there's like also a norm became that, out of your own personal experience, you start judging everybody else. And I think this is an issue. And this is an issue that we need to address now. I'm not talking about 2011,
okay.
because this is a real issue, and I think this is an issue also of a sort of class, okay, if you may, because during 2011, and this is my interpretation right now, of the way I say it, we were marching all over the world, saying we are the 99% in different variations, okay. Basically, the people who are sitting here right now are a part of a class that is actually the audience of the 1%.
Again.
We are
Yes.
a class.
Okay.
Okay, we are part of a class. We are the 99th
Me?
percent. You, my friend, absolutely. You are
How
the
so?
audience of the 1%.
What does it mean? I'm sorry, I'm not following.
Most of the people in the world do not have your kind of abundance. Mine as well.
In the
Most people
world.
in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The world is okay. Let's stick to Israel.
No. Why? Because you said so? I'm trying to make a point that is
Okay.
a bit more
Okay.
Global.
global in that
Okay.
way, okay?
Okay.
So you have people who are running in a certain pace, okay? And we have more options. Some people are becoming digital nomads. There's a tech class that is evolving. We have more relocations, more opportunity. The work structure is different, and basically we are also have the ability to learn, okay? And evolve in our terms. Okay, but this is not the majority of the world. So I think...
Yeah, because the majority of the world lives under, authoritarian dictatorships.
Yeah, and also, I have other struggles like, extreme poverty.
Yeah,
And
but I'm saying because they live in a non-free society. But if we compare the free society, like the free world, which is, most Western countries, Europe, America, and Israel, then...
How can you... I don't know how you can say that with everything that is going on now in France, for example, then you have things that are happening in the United States. You see Trump is a reaction of the peripheral areas of the United States in many ways. There's more connecting Tel Aviv, New York, San Francisco, Berlin, Madrid, capital cities, or like big cities than the peripheral areas of the countries, even in the West, even
But I'm
in the
saying, I
evolved
think if
world.
you take the Western world, I'm not necessarily in the top 1%. I mean, I'm not gonna show my bank account to the camera, but
It's
it
not
wouldn't
about-
be it wouldn't be
It's not
showing
a-
off.
Try to understand what I'm saying. You do have more mobility than most people. Okay?
Because I'm a white male.
No.
Okay, well,
Also,
what?
yes, but I'm not going to take the discussion there.
Okay.
I'm saying that I feel like I'm a part of a global community. I want to be good, I feel like we are the 99%. And I think that, some of the people from the 1% want to be a part.
I
but
get
just
what
let
you're
me
saying.
finish my.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
But you have to also understand
Yeah.
that, that we also have power over other people.
I get what you're saying. I think but that's the issue. Is that
That's the issue?
No, I think that it's noble in a way to want to change the world, but everything has to start with ourselves, and that's maybe kind of a good metaphor for the protest. It's like it's a great thing to want to fix everything, but I have to start with me and the people I love and my family, and then I can't lie to myself and say that I care about the starving kids in Africa. I mean, I think it's sad. I really wish that there weren't kids dying in Africa. But that's so like 90s, by the way, the whole like starving kids in Africa.
No, but you can,
but
you can see the statistics in Yemen.
There still are.
Right
No,
now.
I know.
People dying out of starvation.
It's tragedy. It's tragedy.
No, it's not. It's not
but
tragedy.
I can't lie to myself and say I actually spend any amount of time in my day.
Great. This is a good place to start, because that means that you understand that you have the privilege of not thinking about it. Somebody else is paying the price right now, okay, of something that is wrong and rigged in the system. And a lot of times you will hear a lot of different stories in Israel. Now we're going back to Israel, of people who experienced, sickness, experienced, bankruptcy, experienced lose of work, losing a parent that
who are victims here,
and also financially fragile. We are financially fragile. We are not the minimum wage worker who is actually being punished for doing the work they're doing. And Israel has an amazing percentage of people who clean your stairs that have a third degree, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is amazing. This is.
I mean, I don't know the statistics. I'm not going to argue with the statistics. But what I'm saying is, I think that there's.
But you understand my point, So, but if you talk about the protest itself, the most important thing is that people were okay for the first time, saying that they're struggling, and this was a huge thing. And I think that not giving a list of demands was very important, because also there was a distrust. And people kind of said to themselves, I'm going to be falling between the chairs or between the cracks, because that's what happens to me every time. And government really wants you to give a list of demands. You know why? Because the essence of it is, when are you going home? Okay, let's get to a deal. Okay, and in that deal, we'll have a contract where you get what you want and you leave me the fuck alone. Okay, and when you want something really, really basic to change, then this is a beginning of a journey and not the end of it.
Absolutely.
So
I think that's why that every time you go knocking on the government's door, it should be to take away their power and not to give them more. And I think that many of the aims of the protest were to say, we want public housing, we want public transportation, we want
there.
Yeah, it's like,
are you a libertarian?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And it's like, I'm not a libertarian.
This is something you need to say in the beginning of
I said that.
No, that's not true. You didn't say that.
Anyway,
I'm
not a libertarian.
That's because that kind of frames the entire. Like, can we start from the beginning? I want to start this conversation knowing that you are a libertarian.
Classical liberal, I prefer.
Okay, I'm an Israeli, so I don't know all the genres.
Can I say something, guys? Can I say something? I want to address the thing you said about judging people. Look, I don't judge anyone until they come complaining and want my tax money. Then I allow myself to judge them. And
he sounds like a libertarian too.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I don't judge anyone. Should do whatever he wants until what?
No, I was gonna say yell at him.
Okay, but I'm drawing the fire right now to me. But when you start complaining, then I would judge you. And
no, by using the word complaining, you already judge when people express something.
Okay, I just want to
So
say.
I want to ask you. Okay, I want to ask you a question. Yeah. Okay, because I don't want to debate this.
Okay.
Okay, because this will lead us nowhere. Okay. This is your perspective. This is my perspective.
Sure.
I am, by the way, not a classical socialist. I am in conflict all the time between wanting, government to leave me the fuck alone, to understanding that when individuals have too much power, and power is power. Too much power to government is not good. Too much power to individuals is not good. My prices in Israel are not going down? Because people don't want to bring them down. It's very, very simple. People don't like to lose power. People are very, very, scared of change. And I think that in that way, they also preserve certain situations. So, this is a paradox that we live in. And, the division between the right and the left, financially, security-wise in the country is just irrelevant, because you always need to we need new ideas that will allow us to be in conflict between different concepts that are a part of us. Because I'm sure that the reason you feel like this is also because you have a break of trust. Okay, in many ways.
With whom?
With government.
No, there's nothing to trust there. Who should I trust?
Okay, so I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying that they're not trustworthy. I'm just saying that the government isn't, like, a trust is an interpersonal thing. I don't trust, like,
I trust myself.
Entity. I don't trust
Right.
Google.
So this is a concept that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't look at social security and what it does well. You don't see certain things.
Well.
It's not true. This is a part of the problem of break of trust. Now, the amount of
They
data
take
you have about
my
that,
money.
No, I know.
it doesn't mean that the system is not broken. However, it does work in certain aspects. And trying to take every certain structure that mankind actually created and say, like, none of this is relevant is also kind of, it's also kind of a problem, So even if you want to change structures and you want to build something new, I'm sure that deep down within your soul, you understand that some people have less opportunities than you, and they need more help. Okay, and they need also a support system.
I really think that we agree on the basics of reducing human suffering. I really think that that's an
opportunity for everybody.
An opportunity.
I think people have opportunities in Israel. I know people, and I talked to people who had nothing and started with grew up in Dimona.
But do you know people that had nothing, in your perspective, in your interpretation, and still have the same amount of financial opportunity now? This is more important and enlightening to me to hear you talk about, because of course you will in your in your bubble you will meet the people who actually made it through. But do you know people who actually struggle on a daily basis, understanding how are they gonna
all my friends from film school basically tachlis. Many people from film school are struggling right now.
Struggling in a way, for example, of a mother for three who is actually living in the south side of your city, and is still in line for public housing and does not get alimony, okay, and has one kid that has special needs, and she does not have a notion of dreaming, okay, because of the the way she was brought up. And the only way that she will be able to go out working is by, volunteer, by, giving back the money, that she's supposed to get from Social Security. So this is a loop she's in. Now, she needs to find a place to live. This is not, a theoretical, example. This is a life of a person that I actually know. If you want, you can meet her. But what I'm saying is that person is in a place where she has 3 kids, okay, for example, and she needs to make sure that they get something to eat, send them to school, okay?
She chose to bring these kids to life.
This is just, what about compassion, my friend? Do you have any compassion?
I do, but
would you say the same thing to somebody that is related to you?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you would say, why did you bring those kids?
Yes.
Then you have no compassion.
Why? I see kids as strictly financial choice that people make. That's how I was brought up.
Okay, so this is how you were brought up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, yes.
Okay.
But I okay, let's
But is it the right perspective, or are they
it's only
other
my perspective? Of course there are others.
Okay.
But I know people
But you blame people for their situation.
No, but I didn't talk about these people. I'm more referring to my friends, my close circles who went to the demonstrations.
But those were not the only people who went out.
No, but I don't blame anybody. I don't blame. I mean, I do, but I don't like it. It only converges on my life when someone says that I need to pay a certain amount. I don't see the moral justification for saying. I agree with you that mother of 3 is, I agree with him and I agree with you. I think it is an unfortunate scenario to be in. It is probably very harsh circumstances to live under. But I don't, and you know what? If there were, I donate, and I think that social fabric plays a big role, and there needs to be charities, and that's what communities are about. But I don't see how it's okay, because the government has a monopoly on coercion. They are the only ones that can come knocking at your door and take your money out of your hand. So I don't understand how it's okay to take someone else's money.
No, the bank can do it too.
Well, that's a problem. I mean, I don't know how the bank takes someone's money away by coercion. I mean, if they're calling on certain laws in order to do it, then they're using the government. But what I'm saying is the government is basically knocks on your door, holds a gun to your head metaphorically, and says, "Give me your money so that I can pay for this woman's, 3 children." And that is where I start blaming.
Orthodox,
if I'm left
or
alone,
for settlers.
Yeah, I don't think for Orthodox people as well. I mean, I would say this about any community
that is not you. Basically.
Yeah.
So basically your perspective is saying, I don't want to pay for anybody that I don't choose to pay for.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
But let's talk about
that's your perspective.
But why is that not? I mean, I don't see how it's okay to take someone else's money away.
So again, this is your perspective. I'm not going to start debating it because it will lead us nowhere. But regarding the protest movement in 2011, there were a lot of different people that went out on the street, which means it was public domain. Okay, and it brought a lot of different people with different ideas, perspectives, and also needs, and pains.
But many people came with good background, good financial background, right?
Yeah.
And I would say the majority of
it doesn't matter who went out. Okay. You would criticize them. It doesn't matter. You feel like anybody who is screaming out loud that something is wrong, is not taking enough responsibility over their life.
No,
and
not
this is
anybody,
okay.
Not
no,
anybody.
Okay, so you prioritize.
Yes.
But the thing is that nobody asked for something for free during that summer. Okay?
No, I think
everybody was working. I was working my ass off. So it wasn't about that. But if you don't live at your parents' house with a girlfriend and save up for, whatever, for like a mortgage, and decide and and in a way savvy enough to decide to buy an apartment in order to rent it, to have certain because not everybody is speaking your language.
That's a problem.
Okay,
Most
no,
definitely.
the problem is, and this is a part of your class and my class, but I think that people who are very, very rational and also are savvy in that way and know how to talk business, economics, tech, you kind of think in a way that everybody should understand the world your way. And the thing is that that's not how the world works. And this is a very privileged perspective. And that's okay. I don't judge it. I'm just saying that it comes with responsibility. Okay? If I had to choose between Batman and Spider-Man, I'm a Spider-Man geek. Okay? So with great power comes great responsibility. And, my life is governed by people who are very rational and, very tech savvy, and, those kind of people actually define the way I communicate now with people. But I'm actually an emotive person and I have no issue with communicating with other people. And nobody asked me, from my perspective of how I live my life, do I really want those tools to govern me that way? So
look, I agree that I think everybody has a different perspective.
Exactly,
in life,
but then if you are a libertarian,
okay,
which you are, and you are as well, classical,
libertarian.
whatever, you are on the spectrum.
Are a little
on the
more
spectrum.
extreme.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, everybody needs to have some sort of, identity
and
exactly. Title. Like I don't like
something
it, but this is the way. Exactly. So So I just think that, a part of it is understanding that if everybody should have a right to choose, then we need to start asking, what is freedom of choice? Okay? What are the concepts and dreams and principles that we live by, and who is feeding us all of those? And also, if everybody has a right to choose, then, what power do you have over other people, in that way?
Yeah,
and in that way, there's no equal opportunity. And, government has a lot of bad reputation, especially nowadays because of the break of trust, and they earned that, And I have a lot of issues there, and this is why I'm saying I'm in conflict all the time between two things. But also, I think that certain things have to be public domain, and they need to be available. And also, there's abundance. We live in a time where there's abundance. there's actually a food chain in this country. I'm not going to say the name, but they throw vegetables and fruit with the price of between 800,000 to 1 million shekels a month. Okay, so
but can I say something?
So
If
the
they were
spread
to
of
give
abundance
if they
is
were to
also
give-
an
If they
issue
were
there.
to give that food away, let me just draw a really simplistic, but just a scenario for you. If they were to give that food away,
Yeah.
people wouldn't necessarily buy their products, which would, right? Because they would know they could get it for free. The prices would drop. That company wouldn't have profits, and it would go out of business. And then,
Point
then what would you
noted.
You don't get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just think it's a bit more complicated, and this also
We won't get out
involves
of
regulation
it,
in that
man.
way.
Yeah, no.
But the most, no, but the
I
thing
shouldn't
is,
have. Yeah,
but the thing is that we have the privilege of sitting here and having theoretical discussions
Yeah.
when somebody in this country, in the same time, is in real struggle. And actually, what really, it really.
I cannot accept it for the reason that the only reason we are here is because someone worked really hard and he was in the exact same situation like the person you're talking about. It can be my father 30 years ago or my grandparents, but someone was in the same
So
situation.
because-
Someone worked really hard to get us here right now. And so that never changed.
Right.
That
But
it
then
was
do you
always
need
thus.
but do we need to copy the same struggle that our parents had to pay in order to justify hard work? Because right now, in this economy, okay, you have people opening Instagram pages, making a lot of money, doing absolutely what? So
Yeah.
this is also a part of what
I'd
we...
happily get rid of that.
No, but what I'm saying is that our entire concept, of also like saying we need to justify the fact that we worked hard. So we need to compare ourselves to the fact that you didn't work hard enough, So there's anger there, Even when I hear you speak, there's anger there. There's emotion involved.
Only about the word privilege.
Yeah, but
is
the thing,
the anger.
yeah, but what do you mean the work privilege? It's not about the work privilege.
The word.
The word privilege.
Yeah.
The world, yeah, there's privilege in it. Even if it means that you came from a very poor family, okay, and you had nothing, to eat sometimes, and your parents were savvy enough, strong enough, focused enough, had good education, had good work ethic, had loving parents, that pushed them even if they had nothing. The fact is that people who live in poverty are not poor. In other ways, people get brought up with principles and with work ethics and with but the thing is that it's always judging people who struggle, and a lot of people struggle. There are more people struggling than people who are succeeding to overcome those obstacles
Yeah.
in that way. So I experienced a lot of bullying as a kid,
Yeah.
and I was really strong to deal with it. But does that mean that everybody should struggle with bullying, or maybe like a classroom can become a place
just have a problem
that has
with-
a different syntax of supporting each other?
But I just have a problem with putting victimhood at the center. Because
But it's not
then
victimhood.
It is.
No, it's not.
You're saying, oh, great for you that you overcame an obstacle. But what about these people that aren't overcoming obstacles? Let's basically promote the inability to overcome obstacles by helping them.
No, it's about, but this is simple. This is really like a simplifying way to do it because
I like to simplify ideas.
yeah, but I
'cause
mean, like,
think
let's say because the thing is that people work really hard. It's not like they don't work really hard, but sometimes they need guidance
Yeah.
and they need help. And people work really, really hard in order to get. I think that some people who are in line to get the, welfare they need to get actually can work in Social Security by now because you need to, even, you try and fill out those forms
I
without.
was in line this week to get unemployment. I just got fired.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was it filling those
I
forms?
wasn't going to because I hate the idea of unemployment. But then they called me up about a month before,
Right.
and they took my money because I hadn't paid Bituach Leumi.
So you decided,
like
I'm gonna
a year.
take it
so I was
back.
like, I'm going to take it back.
Okay, good for
I
you.
told
But-
him he shouldn't do it, but
You didn't tell me I shouldn't
I
do it.
did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, but I agree. Look, I think we agree on the
Final
basic,
words.
no, I want to
Eitan.
give her the final words, but I
Yeah,
think that
before she
we
gets
agree
the
on the
final words.
basic point. I just feel like there's a different way of accomplishing it. I really think, and I know
Great.
you're going to hate this word, but I really think capitalism has done more to abolish poverty and human suffering than any other flawed, as it may be, any other flawed system that we have. And I just, that's why I felt like I really, looking at the 2011, I can't say I was that politically involved back then, so I had no feelings back then. But when I look at it now, I feel like I don't feel like anger or judgment at the movement.
Well,
that,
if
like,
you
it
would
was
walk
totally,
there, like Naor did, you
Yeah.
probably would feel a lot of anger and judgment
No,
on all
no,
those,
because, well, I
people
would-
who are like
Hippies.
not working. And,
I was just
you
a
know,
college kid
actually
going to
like
parties.
smiling while they're saying like I'm having a bad time, but I'm actually like also having a good time because I'm not alone anymore.
I probably would have actually joined you guys because I was just a college kid trying
so
to
why
party.
are we arguing?
What I'm saying is that I look back and I feel ashamed because, not ashamed, ashamed that it was like a missed opportunity, that like you there was all this strength,
Energy.
and it was being directed to kind of like asking for more of what's causing the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's like yelling at the government, "Hey, you guys are fucked up.
Eitan.
You guys are corrupt."
Eitan.
And then what? And then
Finish.
asking them to basically solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. But if you could, I want to ask you have a last question?
Yeah.
Okay, so go with it.
What's your current biggest dream / goal?
My biggest goal right now is to find a way to have a conversation with people like you, with your perspective financially,
That's awesome.
that is not about who has a better solution, because I'm not on the other side. And I think that you are part. Okay, so this is not really my goal. I'm just criticizing you in the end. So I don't want to do that. I think,
liked it. I thought that was a good goal.
yeah, well, I
have
already,
conversations.
that's it. I was kind of like,
That's a great goal, I think, to have conversations.
it's like,
Yep.
yeah, but I'm off my game now.
Why not? Why?
I just screwed up my own ending.
Do you have like a personal, beyond this conversation, a personal dream for
Is
the
there another
upcoming
movie or something on the
Yeah,
horizon?
for example.
I think that I can, like, okay, so, people come and they ask me sometimes advice, when they want to focus on something, socially, or even I have some friends, believe it or not, who are not in, NGOs or movements, but actually in business, that actually come and,
Yeah.
ask for advice, or like brainstorm, because I'm good at it. So, I always ask a question that, you're 85 years old and you look back and, you kind of look and you said, this mountain, I helped to move that mountain. What is that mountain?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's obvious that whatever you're going to do, you're going to be one person out of a bunch of people, probably around the world that helped to move that mountain, because you don't move mountains alone. You don't do
Yeah.
anything alone. This is a part of the, by the way, a part of the problem with how the system works and how it celebrates, the person at the top of the pyramid, because you don't move mountains alone. So you don't do anything without your workers. You don't do anything without the consumers, without the ideas, without the atmosphere, without the spirit. There's an ecosystem always that creates opportunity and pushes you forward. Okay. And of course, the person who is leading has a lot of, has a dream and has the goal and has, the most, investment in it. But so my mountain, that I would like to help to move is, I would like to live in a world where there's an alignment between integrity and abundance.
Okay, what do you mean?
That's all I have.
Okay.
In that way. It took me 7 years to be able to vocalize it and to have words saying, I want to live in a world when your integrity gets, the abundance, not the opposite.
A meritocracy.
What
Like basically where people who have more integrity have more abundance.
right.
Okay.
When you get more privileges when you are good,
Okay.
and you are, collaborative, and you are not bullying anybody, and you are being of assistance and of help, and not just trying to think how you can make something that nobody really needs, in order to make a buck.
Yeah.
And using a sweatshop on the way. So, this is just as an example. And I think that more and more people understand that. But, so this is my mountain. And I think that this is a different system. Okay. Values of how we be, because even if you take that concept and you put it in the, in the base of any structure, it changes the structure, because it gives you a vision and like a compass to where you want to lead. And so that's one thing. And also I would really like to have a political identity, because I don't have one right now. So I would really, one of the goals is to try and find new words, new ideas that have complexity, and allow yourself to also change within the, because I think that the political arena right now is very, very old fashioned. And it's more about, you choose one structure of ideas that only that way you make everything work. And the truth is that reality is more pragmatic. And, and a lot of times politics is run by the worst, parts of mankind.
Scumbags.
So,
Agreed.
So it's more about how you conduct yourself and the ethics of how you work. And I think it also brings me into point number one. And I can talk about it for like another hour, but I think those are the, the goals, and everything else is like, okay, how can I be the most effective?
I could offer some political commentators to listen to, but I don't think you'd like them very much.
Not now. Later. Sorry, I have to be very strict because we're over time.
It's okay.
Daphni, your movie will it be screened in America?
I don't know. I actually, I have to say that we were really not successful getting the film screened in any of the big festivals. And I would love to have, screenings.
How can people who listen, who want to invite you, how can
especially, by the way, like, the Jewish communities around the country, because because of, this is something very important that happened here. And I think this can also, create a discussion about,
It has to be said that the film is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you so much.
It really is really good. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, like, it's just, I thought it would be this boring kind of like documentary about like events, like in 2011, this, but it was like almost
very philosophical.
It was like Godard. I mean, I'm pulling on my but there really was this kind of like avant-garde like moments in it, right? Like the.
But you also felt close. But you were also close to the character, right?
Yeah.
So the reason that happened is that there was no conflict between the director and the character, because it was all about how much am I willing to see within myself, or successful to see within myself, and then I can, portray it.
No,
so
got
more.
The goosebumps.
Thank you so
several
much.
Moments. No, it was great.
It's good to finish in a
If someone wants the goosebumps, how do they contact you?
Can I give you like contacts so it will be in the post?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'll give you an email and
but you're on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really get Twitter. Everybody's really cynical. I'm not witty enough for using that.
Yeah.
And I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
Right? And I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't really understand that network.
Nobody does.
MySpace? Do you have any MySpace? Do you have a MySpace account now?
No.
Okay.
No, I do not. Does that still exist?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't know.
I think this is the best English I had in a while.
You have great English.
Thank you.
No, really.
Did I make a lot of mistakes?
No, zero mistakes.
Really?
Not zero.
Yeah, don't be.
Come on.
No, you got to be honest so that your compliments are.
I didn't hear any mistakes.
Yeah, but you're not. You're not
I heard a
American.
few, but like you have really good English.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, before we go, we have a collaboration with the Jewish Journal, jewishjournal.com. They're a news outlet in Los Angeles. Check them out, guys. They're great.
And we do this on our free time, so give us all your money. That's it.
Oh, what am I doing? You just finished the thing.
Yeah, but
no, say.
Okay, so if I can ask you guys to also put some links that will allow people to read about the movement, because I think that our conversation was kind of like all over the place.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And this will, allow them to kind of
Tell
connect to the linear part of it, and I will be able to send you links that are actually accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely don't. I would always urge our listeners at the end of every episode, do not listen to anything me and Naor have to say. We don't know anything. Like, I'm serious.
Yeah.
It's a disclaimer. We don't know anything. So
Yeah.
just read and use your own heads.
Okay, Daphne, thank you so much for
Thank you
coming.
guys for having
Thank
me.
you so much.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.